The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. Between science and ignorance, there is filler.
And welcome back to the second hour of Paranormal Filler for May 22nd, 2016. I'm going to apologize for any of the live listeners that caught a little dead air at the beginning of the show. This is my fresh hell for the evening. My commercial/music computer just froze. I clicked the button to play the promos and everything, and it just freaking froze. So I had to go old school and actually play the tracks. I know, it's inside baseball stuff. You all don't care. All you care about is that I'm on the air now, and we have a quality show coming up. My guest for this hour is Rosalyn Bown. You might remember her from Ghost Hunters Academy, or you might not, because if anybody really watched that show, it would have probably still be on the air. But I've run into her at many events across the United States of America, and I've been meaning to. Actually, I shouldn't even say I've been meaning. I've tried a couple times to get her on the show, and she's a hard woman to run down because she keeps the road hot. Keeps the road hot, as they say. But I've got her on now because Unity, A Journey of Hopes Lockdown 2016 is coming up next month. We're not even a month away from that booger. So we got that coming up, and we'll be talking about that and catching up with her and find out what all she does in the paranormal field. So everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be with you shortly. And I'm really upset about this computer crashing because this is a Linux box. Linux boxes do not crash, is what I've been told. And it is just absolutely sitting over here frozen like an ice cube. Rosalyn, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
I'm having my fresh hell for today, but I understand that you might have actually had a worse week than I did, so I'm not going to spend the next hour complaining like I did the last hour.
Yeah, life is challenging. I don't know. I know a lot of people would blame it on Mercury retrograde. I just blame it on life. But you know what? We're still standing, right?
Yeah.
So
well, every now and then, I'm tempted to blame it on Mercury retrograde, but I just tend to think of it as the universe every now and then likes to remind me that it can make me its bitch. That's the only way I can put it.
T-shirt.
You know, I might do that. I gotta have something to sell as I go around to these events. So first of all, I want to talk. The first time I guess we were introduced to you was on Ghost Hunters Academy. I mean, most of us anyway. Now, how long Of course, that's so long ago. People who saw you probably already forgot that you were on it.
I've forgotten that I was on it.
And probably not a horrible thing. I tell you, here's my critique of the show. I have no critique of any of the people, such as yourself, that were contestants on the show. My critique, and this is Gonzalez and Tango, always expected you all to behave better than they ever behave on an investigation.
That's interesting. Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
That's an interesting perspective. I never even thought of it that way.
Do I remember correctly, did you get, I know you got, if not called on the carpet, did you actually get kicked off the show, or however you want to call it, because they said you threw someone under the bus? Was that you?
I've got to be honest. I didn't watch the show, so I don't know how it was edited to justify my being kicked off. So I'm not sure what was said. I will say it's interesting because the episode. So for people who don't know what the show is, SyFy's Ghost Hunters Academy is a sort of spin-off of the SyFy T.A.P.S Ghost Hunters show that most paranormal people should be familiar with if you're at least in this field. Even if you don't watch it, you should be aware of the show because it was one of the early days originators of the modern-day paranormal entertainment TV show. And the premise of my show was that the T.A.P.S team was looking for the next member to join their team. So they had this reality show competition. And the shows, there were 2 seasons. I was on the 2nd season. And in each season, it had like 8 contestants, and then they drilled it down to 1 winner. So my season was season 2. We filmed in 2010. I was not the winner. I was eliminated, I think the 5th episode, I believe it was, out of 8. And so that's sort of the backstory on the show. Now, as far as my experience on there, I don't remember what they said or why they said I was kicked off because like I said, I just didn't watch it. I do. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, if I remember correctly, somebody did something really butt-headed, and they asked you about it, and you said, and basically all you did was say, he was being a dick or whatever. That isn't what you said.
I would never say that.
I know. You're way too sweet of a person. But, you did say, he was, and then they accused you of throwing him under the bus, and I'm thinking, if you didn't want her to, why the hell did you even ask her about it? But it's not as bad. It's not as bad. Someone else got thrown off the show. One of the ladies got thrown off the show. I remember them saying she wasn't taking it seriously enough. She was laughing and joking and everything. And I'm thinking, my God, Tango wore a crown on the 1st or 2nd episode. They stuck a tiara on his head. He
must have felt pretty.
So of all there's only 2. That is one of the only 2 ghost hunting shows that I've ever watched that I just could not find any redeeming value in. And
well, here's the thing with it. The way they, like I say, the way they edit it, it really isn't the way things went. I do remember at one point when I finally realized they were getting rid of me, there was like that moment of truth where, we're having the elimination scene, which, went on for, I don't know, an hour or so, but you're only seeing a small segment of it. And I remember Tango looking at me, and it sounded it wasn't him. It was just him saying what he was supposed to say. But he looked at me and he said, "You're not very observant." And I was like, oh, so that's what you're going to use. Okay, I get it. You're building a script around, you've decided that I'm not observant, so that's why you're getting rid of me, which, of course, wasn't what happened. And the funny thing is, when I was eliminated on episode 4 or 5, whatever it was, we were at Fort Delaware. The episode prior to that, we had been at the Mark Twain house up in Connecticut. And, we filmed the episode, did the elimination. I got kudos for doing a good job. Everything was fine. Then we go down to Fort Delaware, and that was where things turned, and they decided that they no longer wanted me. They wanted to keep the other people. Well, the funny thing is, you then see the judges. You see Steve and you see Dave and Jason come back, and you see them going into the RV, but they're wearing the same clothes they wore 2 weeks ago when they filmed the elimination scene in Connecticut. So they actually re-filmed again, I didn't watch it, so I'm basing this on being on site and watching what happened. I'm left to believe that they refilmed it to now justify, getting rid of me. So they probably, maybe filmed some sort of pattern of behavior or whatever. And when I say I didn't watch it, I literally did not watch it. I watched the first episode because my friends made me. They wanted to have this little party, this little premiere thing. And the first episode was a good one for me. But yeah, things weren't so good. But again, it's what you see is not what happened. And they're good people. I'm very
once again,
with all the guys from Ghost Hunters.
I have great respect
most
for
of the competitors. I'm friendly with.
I have great respect for the entire team. I just felt that was a project that was ill-conceived.
Yeah, it's a goofy show.
Yeah, that's.
And the bummer about it is, I said it after I did that show, so that was in 2010, and before that, and that's a lot of people might not know if they don't come out and they haven't met me at events and seen me lecture or just heard what I have to say about myself is, people watch that show and they assume that I'm just this cottonhead that popped up and decided she wants to be a ghost hunter and be on TV. They don't realize that I've been investigating. I joined my first team in 1999. And when I was cast for that show, I did not go looking to be on television. I actually was minding my own business in New Jersey, assistant director for the local T.A.P.S family group, like doing real work, doing real investigations, doing it because I'm passionate, not because I want to be on TV or because I'm trying to get paid. I was doing it for free because I love it, avoiding cameras because I'm very shy. And I was approached with this opportunity, and they wanted me to audition. And I said, well, at first I said, oh, come on. But the more I thought about it, if I could make this work, if I would then have the opportunity to support my family, because I have two sons, and also travel the country, which I would always wanted to do, and to investigate amazing haunted locations and pursue my passion, I mean, why would I not go for it?
I agree. A lot of the drama in the paranormal field is based on people, saying bad about the TV shows, about, what makes these people, experts and everything. Well, first of all, immersion. The people that I've met in the paranormal field that I've seen on TV, television never reflects what they really know and how they really feel and what they really believe. So,
without a doubt, you're 100% correct.
So you cannot base anything on that. But that I've always felt just like what you just said. When the opportunity comes up to give me a chance to make a living doing what I'm passionate about, as long as I don't have to sell my soul to do it, and I've never talked to anybody that the TV show was asked to do something that was just total. But once again, now through the process of editing, they've made some people look really, really ridiculous.
Sure.
On some of these shows. So yeah, but I mean, it's like if you're a amateur artist and somebody says, "Hey, would you like to do, can we sell your paintings?" Even if the paintings suck, you're going to say, "Hell yes." So yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. Now, so you were on the T.A.P.S team, one of the local teams before
exactly.
that. Now that's one that I don't remember of the entire crew that night or that season. I don't remember you really coming across as a novice. It's like when they handed you a gadget, you didn't play dumb. It was like, matter of fact, I think a couple times your eyes glazed over while they were explaining how to use things. But
for the most part, I'm experienced. Now, I will say my strength, I am not naturally a techie. So if you ask me now what I use, I generally don't use a bunch of equipment. But yeah, I've been doing this for years. I've done it hundreds of cases. I kind of know what I'm doing. They kind of didn't like that as much because, they would give us something new that they were presenting as new equipment, and I was ready to go running with it. And they were like, well, wait, slow down. They wanted us to baby step with it, But I was like, sorry. You give me a voice recorder, I'm taking it with me. I wasn't aware I was supposed to just set it in one location and walk around it. I don't know. Just goofy stuff like that.
But anyway, I would make the assumption that that after you did the show, and then of course you get to put that on your resume.
Yeah.
That it did open some doors for you as far as getting into some events and getting bringing you closer to your passion.
Oh, my goodness. I had never even attended a paranormal event. I didn't even know that this whole industry was out there. Now, again, I was part of this local group, so every October we had a hardcore lecture thing that we did. We would do free lectures for libraries and organizations all throughout the state of New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. And then we did it for free. And we would show up and we would play a little video and we'd do a Q&A, as a panel and, and just talk to people about, about the field. So I was used to doing that, and we used to do some fundraiser ghost hunts for local historic locations. But again, it was not about us making money. It was about us raising money for local historic events. So I had done things like that, but I didn't know there was this whole para-celebrity culture where, all this stuff happened, where you could go around the country and have a chance to, meet people and discuss topics with them and hear them lecture and things like that. So, yeah, this totally opened doors for me. But like you say, it kind of was a double-edged sword because not only it did open doors for me, for which I will be forever grateful, but kind of the bad side at the beginning was people who had seen me on TV had this impression that wasn't accurate. So I kind of felt like I had to redefine who I was to people. I had to shake them of that perception. And it's funny, I had done a Paracon in Las Vegas, I think in 2012, and I met these two women who happened to be from New York. So they were, I'm from New Jersey, so we're a little more, a little more direct, maybe not as delicate, I guess, with the way we speak. So I'm in Vegas with these two New York girls, and the one girl looks at me, she goes, "Wow, you are really nice. You seem like such a bitch still on TV, but you're so nice in person." And I'm like, wow, thanks for that. I appreciate your honesty, but she's right. I'm sure I was portrayed as a bitch because that's how they needed a villain for certain episodes, and I was the lucky one to fill that role. So, yeah, you kind of have to accept that this is the perception people have, but then you go out and let them meet you and see who you really are, and then you go from there. So, yeah, there definitely was an art form to having to undo some of those knots that show had sort of tied around my ankles.
Everybody, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. My guest tonight is Rosalyn Bown.
Hello, friends. Are you exhausted with life? Resent your children? Maybe your husband is cheating on you. Get yourself a tarot reading with Ken Boggle. He can provide you with the clarity, guidance, and answers you need. That's tarotbyken.com. He makes things seem less shitty.
And we're back with Paranormal Filler. My guest is Rosalyn Bown. Now, one thing knowing what your wares are when you go to a Paracon, and that sounds terrible now that I've heard myself actually say it, what you display at your table. Were you already into the, I'm going to call it the metaphysical side of the paranormal before the show, or is that something that you've grown into over the years?
That's actually something that was completely in my background before I went on the show. And it was something that they never really wanted to approach or talk about, so we didn't talk about it. But yes, I'm a psychic medium. I always say I'm more of a non-practicing medium because I don't do it a lot. I'm just now sort of getting back into it. But I'm a psychic medium. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, and I'm also a Reiki master. And the things that you're referring to, I hand make jewelry that I use that's specific semi-precious gemstones and crystals. And I Reiki charge them with specific intentions. And, so certain things that, say you want something to help you with psychic protection, I can provide different bracelets for that, and necklaces and things like that. So that's kind of the bulk of what you would see at my vending table. Everything I sell is things that I make myself.
Mm-hmm. I guess I wasn't going to go ahead. You won't believe how many people come on here, how many mediums come on here and don't like the word medium. So I always kind of approach it when I'm not positive. I knew that you were. I got enough when I was with you last time at at Mansfield, that I knew that you were at least a sensitive. I knew that you were tuned in, as they say. But so you do embrace the term psychic medium, and this is something that you embraced even before the show. Now, you're right. That topic did not come up, and as a matter of fact, on another guest, it did come up, and they acted like it was, she had just told them that, oh, by the way, I'm a child molester. You know, it was, you know.
Yeah, I think the guys are open to it, but they shy away from it because kind of their focus is on things that they can sort of track and show you physical evidence of and debunk potentially. And, you know, when you're dealing with the psychic stuff, it's, it's so nebulous. You can't prove it.
I do understand that, but my theory on, I never shied away from working, even before I got into the metaphysical side of the paranormal, I never shied away from working with psychics. Basically, even if I wanted to be as skeptical as I could, I would think that if they were even a little tuned in to that realm, that they could tell me which way to point the camera.
Exactly.
Because
like having a fish finder when you're out on a lake.
Yeah, I mean,
why would you ignore the readings? It doesn't mean it's 100%, but you know, you have this vast lake to fish in. Why would you not want to narrow it down?
Yeah,
I mean, aren't you there to catch fish?
Well, the way I looked at it, at the end of the day, worst case, psychics are complete bullshit, and their guess is no worse than mine. So, you know, I figured at the very least, it was going to be a wash. Now, I will say that once I got into the psychic world and worked with some psychics that I could tell were genuinely gifted, I won't, like I said, I was never skeptical. It was just something that I wasn't interested in. It was more of a, I'm over here, that's over there, that's cool, that's fine, you know. But
and a lot of groups are like that, you know. But the thing is, I was fortunate when I joined my first group in 1999. I joined a group that was kind of the eventual merging, or years ago it merged from two different groups. And one of the founders of one of the groups was, you know, a medium. So they were open to that, to the point that even though we were very technical with the way we approached our investigations, we also would pay very close attention to things like psychic impressions of all the investigators. So you didn't have to claim to be a sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who was on that investigation that night, first of all, you would all be untainted. Only the team leader would know what the claims were. So everybody was coming in very objective about what was going on. So no, it wasn't a case of you being influenced by information that you were fed. If you reported some sort of impression, say we have 3 different teams that night on 3 different floors, and 2 people on 2 of the different teams who have no contact have a similar report, you know, that's something you want to take a look at. So we would actually have a section on our reports for psychic impressions. So we did give them equal potential weight as being potential evidence. So I was lucky I was brought up in that field when I first entered the paranormal investigation. But the thing about me, as far as being a medium, I have friends who are these super talented psychic mediums who've been talking to dead people since they were little kids, and it's just natural for them, where I'm the opposite of that. I am somebody who grew up having premonitions, so I do have a natural psychic ability, but as far as mediumship and talking to the dead and seeing ghosts and things, that's not something I grew up with. I feel that I went out and made the effort to develop that natural sixth sense that we all have. So it's kind of interesting because, I'm not your typical medium. I'm the medium that I think everybody has the potential to be if they make the effort and learn how to do it.
So before you, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did you get into the paranormal and then pursue your gifts, or did you? Okay, you didn't pursue your gifts and then say, "Oh, I'm going to start ghost hunting."
Nope, not at all. Growing up, I would have these premonitions when I was a little kid. I come from this family that really did not embrace that, and I always laugh about that because Joe Chin and I have talked about that. Just being minorities, you know, him being Chinese, me being black, our family cultures tend not to really, you know, as a whole. Obviously, I'm not speaking for my entire race, but we tend not to be as open to embracing that kind of stuff.
I was going to say, now what about Miss Cleo?
Yeah,
Dionne Warwick.
Well, she's Jamaican. Jamaican's different. They are very much in touch with that old spirituality. But that's the thing. And, you know, my culture, I'm from New Jersey. We're Methodist, but we have Southern roots. My family originally came from the South. But, you know, Christian family, but they believe in ghosts. They just don't want to mess with it. And that's the thing. It's like they get it, but they have almost, I don't know if it even is a healthy fear. It's probably like a little more of a paranoia, but they don't mess with it. And I always say, my Aunt Sharon sums it up perfectly when she says, let the dead stay dead. That was the sort of the approach. But here's this little girl having these premonitions, being able to tell the family that something bad's going to happen to a family member, and repeatedly being accurate. So they had to take notice. But then I joined this group in '99 just because I happened to be watching a local newscast around Halloween, and they showed this local group. And, this is before Ghost Hunter Show, before the Internet really was what it is today. And I had no idea there were groups out there that did this. And then to find one right in my backyard, I went right out and joined. So then it was after that and during my time with that group that I started to become more open to these possibilities. And I started to notice these sensitivities that I had, or I'd be on an investigation and I would suddenly see something in my head, or maybe I would think I was hearing something, or a name would pop up or something like that. And, we just sort of, I took some classes and learned how to develop it, and I kind of went from there.
Now, try to tune yourself out of this question, because you, with your natural gifts, you went at this wanting to be more in tune with the psychic world. But now you mentioned on your group that you had a spot on your forums for psychic impressions.
Yes.
Did you observe that people, as they're exposed to the paranormal field, in other words, as they're tuned, as they relax and just being immersed in the paranormal, do you think that actually can open up people's gifts just without even pursuing it?
It's, whether it's just because you're open to it, or like you say, it's this immersion process, whether it's because you're just getting acclimated. And, one of the things that some mediums that teach sort of tell you that one strategy, and it's, again, this isn't scientific, so who knows how you really do this, but they talk about the density of energy and how humans have more of a denser energy vibration. We vibrate slower at a slower rate, where spirits are higher. So they kind of say to sort of better communicate with the dead, if they can lower their vibration a little and you can raise yours some, you have a better chance of communicating. And again, it might sound goofy if you're not familiar with that, but it's not an uncommon theory. So, maybe you're in that zone where you're raising your vibration. Some things we tell people, if you want to get more in touch with your psychic abilities, is not only to practice doing simple visualizations and things like that, but also doing things like meditations. If you're in the right mindset, I absolutely believe that you can open up and become more in tune with your own innate psychic abilities.
Now, incidentally, I wasn't even planning on taking this conversation this direction, but I love, like I say, I've always loved working with psychic mediums, and I love the entire process. So I'm gonna kind of take this down my usual psychic question list. When you go into a location, how do your visions, your feelings, what comes to you? Do you hear? Do you see? I mean, kind of describe if you're, and I'm talking about when you go to a haunted location that is notoriously haunted. In other words, your typical ghost.
Well, people that talk about different types of psychic abilities usually talk about the different clairs. Right. So there are the people that are more likely to be clairvoyant. They're more likely to see things. I tend to be, but most people are a combination. You're not usually just one thing, but maybe one thing is more dominant. For me, I kind of waver, because I used to think I was claircognizant, which is clear knowing, just knowing things just pop in your head. But I actually think my strength is more clairsentience. I'm more likely to feel things. Mm-hmm. I sense it. So if I walk into a location that is...
You're aware of things.
Yeah, but I can feel it. It's hard to explain, but I can actually sense the energy. Physically, I physically will feel it, mm-hmm. Whether it feels like a tightness in my chest or just like an overwhelming feeling. Sometimes it feels like a lot of pressure in my head. But I can, now that doesn't mean there's a spirit there, but I tend to be able to feel where there's these like concentrated pockets of energy. And then that can kind of point me in the direction of maybe it being a spirit. Excuse me. Now, other things I get, though, is sometimes I will just, things will pop in my head. Sometimes I hear something being said inside my head, which sounds kind of crazy, but it's like the word is being said in my head without my ears, my physical ears hearing it. So, yeah, there's different ways, and sometimes I see, but it's rare. Like, even as far as physically seeing, this is kind of funny. All these years I've been doing this, hundreds of investigations, all different types of cases, I still have never seen a full-body apparition. My strength is not seeing.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't. But I tend to feel things or see things, you know what I mean, or see them in my head more. But, yeah, physically seeing, I just don't. I just haven't. So it's kind of a bummer for me.
No, actually, the reason I'm stuttering so much is I'm really excited because your story sounds so much like my own. And our gifts,
oh, really?
Yes, our gifts are very, very similar. I consider when I go into a place, I start tuning in, and and also, but it might be that little leftover skeptic in me. But my biggest critique of psychic mediums in general, is they can't shut up. They just when they go into a location, they just blah 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 blah. I do not share anything until it just absolutely, unless somebody's standing there with a pad of paper saying, "What do you feel?" I don't share anything until it just absolutely, it hits me so strong that I can't ignore it.
Yeah.
But otherwise it's very similar to you. And now I've only ever actually seen one thing, and that could have been, I was in the corner of my eye, could have been total imagination. I fully confess. But now I will say the first ghost hunt the first real ghost hunt I went on, that got this into my blood, you might say. I saw this black mass walk up to me, look me over, and walk away.
That is so cool.
It was just that simple, but that's what got me excited.
Dude, that's the money shot.
Yeah, but I'm in a totally dark room, and just because I see something that's a little bit darker than the rest of the dark, once again.
You sound just like me. Now, that is the only scene I've ever seen, too. Now, I did see one full-on shadow figure in my house. We can talk about that in a second if you want to. But that was the most distinct thing I ever saw. But sometimes I will see, like, these sort of indistinct shadows in a dark room. And it's funny, I say the same thing. I say it's almost as if the blackness became more black. Like, the darkness solidifies. Like, that's how I always describe it. And it's hard to explain, but you can see it. But yeah, it's not often that I see that. Now, the one I did see that was distinct was a full-on shadow person in my living room. And, my house is, I don't know, it was built in 1930. I mean, it's got some age. It's a historic town. We were occupied during the Revolutionary War. So we do have some history, but it's not, like, hyper-historic. It's just a 100-year-old house. And, so it's nothing related to anything that I can figure out. But I just was walking into my living room, and the living room was dark, but the kitchen light was on and the upstairs hall light was on, so there was this ambient light situation, which I think plays a factor. And I full on, completely with my physical eye, saw this outline of a three-dimensional man standing in front of my wood-burning stove. And not a doubt in my mind, I saw it, scared the crap out of me, and never saw him again. But, it's the most distinct thing I've ever seen, and it was kind of a mind trip for me.
Now, I have to go down this line of questioning because most time when I'm talking to a psychic medium, their house is just like a freeway for spiritual activity. So I'm surprised that you were surprised, or that that you even made the assumption that this was something that was resident to the building and not something that was either looking for you or followed you home or whatever.
Yeah, no, my house is very peaceful. I think the most, other than that guy, the most distinct and the most overt type of activity we've ever had were footsteps. Me and my husband both heard it, and, he was a skeptic. I mean, I think he was an open skeptic, but it's not his thing. and we both heard these heavy-booted footsteps coming up the staircase. And there was no denying it. We were wide awake, and we listened to it. But other than that, other than little indistinct shadows, or, my son when he was little kind of having these, like, weird dreams and talking about seeing things where, I kind of had to figure out, is it a dream? Is it just, his imagination? Or is something going on, which I was never able to prove. But other than that, no, my house is very peaceful, and I like it that way. That's I encourage that. I like to let my guard down at home. I don't want to be
I fully understand. Now, do you do anything actively to protect or shield your home, or is it just do you kind of feel like me? It's kind of like the luck of the draw.
You know what? Once upon a time, I did. There was a point when I was and I'm not part of any group now. I'm just a freelance, ghost investigator. But when I was part of my organized group, there was a period of time where I sort of evolved and joined this sort of subset of our group who would focus on the dark cases, the potentially demonic. If you believe in that, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. And the disruptive or violent cases. So when I was dealing in the darker side of the paranormal, I'd be more likely to sort of feel like maybe there was something lurking or things that maybe were coming to dissuade me from doing the work I was doing, or to harass me or unnerve me or get me off my game or whatever. Again, nothing, well, sometimes it was a little bit in your face, but generally it was kind of subtle, but just enough to kind of keep me a little unnerved. And when I was actively doing that work, I would do different protections. There was a really nice hedge prayer that I used to use that would sort of do this hedge of protection around my home. You could do it around the people and things like that. Different prayers I would use for my children to make sure that they were safe and things like that. Mm-hmm. Different crystals I use. At one point, things were really funky in my basement when I was doing the darker side of things. So, I had some crystals I put down there as a little grid to help. So, there were times when things were ramped up, and simple smudging, I think, is just an always good thing to do. But for me, honestly, I'm so clear and positive and empowered now at this point in my paranormal career that I don't worry about those things. And honestly, worrying about it overly is honestly a big way to draw things to you, in my opinion. That like attracts like. Those negative, fear-based, worrying feelings and emotions and those lower energies can attract the lower and darker and more negative entities. So, I'm pretty much self-protected for the most part.
See, it's like if you could talk to a mirror. Quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with more Rosalyn Bown on Paranormal Filler.
Learn the method at Bobby Mackey's with Brian J. Cano. Sunday, July 24th. Learn investigating techniques, participate in experiments, and come experience Bobby Mackey's firsthand. Join Brian as he explores the infamous Bobby Mackey's music world for the first time. His method tour focuses on the process, philosophy, and execution of paranormal investigating and is suitable for novices and veterans alike. Brian's goal is to take each attendee and alter their perspectives with critical thinking, basic techniques, and logic. Event highlights will be broadcast live by me, Wes Forsyth of Paranormal Filler. Be interviewed about your experiences as they happen. For more information, go to neverstopsearching.com. That's The Method with Brian J. Cano, Sunday, July 24th.
And we're back with more Paranormal Filler. Now, first of all, I want you to give me kudos. I have not mispronounced your last name even by accident.
I love that. I love when people pronounce my name right. It's very exciting. And when they spell it right, too. That always helps.
I'm sure that helps. So basically, so you say when I got into the paranormal, I didn't do anything at all for a long time. Then as I got into the metaphysical side and started, learning about how to communicate with spirit guides and meditation and all that, I said, okay, here's the deal. No ghost zone. House, no ghost zone. And yeah. I've never had anything follow me home, Now, I've had a couple of experiences in my home. Once again, I kind of like you said, I had for a while we had a little old lady that was hanging around. I think she came with the place, and so the no-go zone didn't apply to her because she was here first. But otherwise, honestly, the only times I've really felt anything in my house were of human causality. Some people whose paths I had crossed in the field that wanted to test the perimeter, as one might say.
Yeah, those people are out there.
But I'm. So we'll move on now to the event coming up. How did you get hooked up with Chris Dedman?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Chris and I go back. I think we met back in, I don't even know, 2011 maybe. We did an event up in Ohio, and that was the first. We had been talking on Facebook a little bit before then, just being part of the same network of people. But we met back then at this event, and we've been friends since. And yeah, he's an amazing guy. And he told me about this event. I guess this is our third year, right? Yeah, third year doing it. So the first year they put together this sort of lockdown at the Mansfield.
I was there. I was there 2 years ago.
The Ohio Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. He sort of asked me to be a part of this event, and of course I was like in. I mean, who doesn't love Shawshank Redemption? And so to go to this great historic location, potentially haunted, and then it sort of has the Hollywood bent to it. I mean, to me, it was a score. And then if you look at the quality of the charity itself, I mean, the work that they do, it's always kind of described casually as a Make-A-Wish type foundation type event or charity, but for adults. So for adults with these life-limiting diseases and conditions, they try to provide wishes and fulfill needs for them, and that's what the money goes to. So great event, great cause, killer location.
I went 2 years ago to cover it for the radio, and well, even Chris admits it. 2 years ago, it was not that organized. But I did not get to experience the place fully. I kind of got locked in just a little section of the building, running back and forth to the microphone, and so I didn't really get to explore. And but I will say, the place it's too pretty to have ever been a prison.
Right? It is gorgeous. And with me being I live in South Jersey. I'm like 10 miles east of Philly. So I'm very familiar with Eastern State Penitentiary. And that place always will be near and dear to my heart as this really cool, local, crumbly, gritty location. But then I go to Mansfield, and I'm like, whoa, this place is like clean, and it's been finished. And Eastern State is working towards that, but they still have a long way to go. And it's really cool to be able to fully explore and have open access to this prison and not be afraid I'm going to get tetanus, or worry about the rats, you know what I mean, which is a thing at Eastern State. So not to bash Eastern State, I love that prison, but Mansfield is just so different, and it is architecturally beautiful, absolutely stunning. And yeah, I love it. Love that location. So I'm really excited to be going back next month. Really hope people can join us because you really want to take advantage of this. Now,
as a psychic medium, what are some impressions you've gotten of the place?
We've gotten some really strange ones. Now, the thing with me, like sometimes if I'm not tuned in, I might not really be noticing what's going on around me, but just the overall feeling, very oppressive in some places. A lot of anxiety. You kind of feel that panicky feeling that isn't internal. It's sort of you're picking up on the feeling of the entities that are present. Other than that, I'm trying to think. Now, I have a terrible memory, so I don't know if we had any particular encounters that stuck out. We did get some interesting activity, I know. Last year, we actually had Chris Dedman's son was there with us, Chamberlain, and he he turned 16 that night. So we had a cake for him and everything at the prison, sweet 16 at the prison. But he seemed to be, almost acting as a trigger in that location because, I guess these prisoners, these spirits that are there, they probably have people coming through all the time, but, having this young man there, I think sort of seem to attract a different type of attention. So that was that was unexpected, but it was definitely interesting. So
now, one thing I've this is an ongoing theory, and there's once again, it's one of those things none of us can prove or disprove or whatever. But now, I did not get tuned into Mansfield enough because, like I said, I was hardly in ghost hunt mode when I was there. I was in radio mode. But my feeling is that a lot of these big, well-hunted locations. Now, I do not want to say in any way they're not haunted, but I'm not always convinced that I'm talking to the original residents.
I agree.
Cool.
100%. Whether it is that because all these people are coming through and they're tracking along their own spirits with them. So, yeah, like you say, maybe it's not the originals. I always worry, too, and, every year when I do the paranormal speaking circuit, I write a new talk. And last year, the talk I gave all around the country was about the Philip experiment. And, a lot of investigators I spoke to at these lectures hadn't heard of it. But in short, it was an experiment done in 1972 up in Toronto, Canada, where a psychical research decided they were going to see if they could intentionally manifest a ghost. So they invented this ghost. They invented him from whole cloth, gave him a name, a description, a backstory, a death story, everything. And then they would meet once a week and try to make him manifest. And while he didn't physically manifest, they did start to get these seance-type results where they would ask questions that would relate to the biography they had written, and they would get yes-no responses like raps on the table tipping. They even got EVPs, things like that. And the cool thing about it was when they would intentionally change something about the biography, the rapt responses would then change in accordance to it. So it seems to prove that it was something that they were manifesting. So I always wonder when you go in these places, you really should be skeptical because is it a case where it's the original entities? Is it a case of people tracking in new ones? Or is it even a case of us unconsciously manifesting because everybody's been told that this spirit is in this location? Are we all unconsciously manifesting this spirit that isn't really even a spirit at all? So, yeah, I have those same questions. And I just tell people, be skeptical. Take it all with a grain of salt.
I follow that same line of thinking. The only thing I throw in extra is I actually throw in what I call a tourist ghost. I think that when we're stomping around these locations, asking for EVPs and asking for, the so-and-so ghost to show up, I think there's a lot of ghosts just wandering around wanting attention that they miss from life, and they say, yeah, I can be Claire. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
why would you not? And that's kind of the thing where we were talking earlier about how my home doesn't seem to be this sort of, throughway for a lot of spirits where other people you might talk to, they do. Some people are almost like a beacon for these spirits. And, being near Philly, we would sometimes do investigations in some of these Philadelphia row homes. And we would be dealing with one family in one home, but maybe the connected house 3 houses down is where the origination of the spirit. But the thing is, if you're very sensitive or if you're asking for this attention, you are now a beacon to these spirits. And I always say it's like if I were to go to Germany and I need somebody to help me and everyone's speaking German, but from way over there I hear a little English-speaking voice, that's where I'm going to gravitate because that's somebody that can potentially hear me and hopefully help me. So, yeah, definitely. There's no reason why not to think that ghosts or spirits would do the same thing, go towards the people who they think can hear them and they can get some interaction from.
Now, the other thing that I like asking psychic mediums, do you consider yourself a ghost magnet? When you go into a place, does your light attract them like moths to the flame, or do you still have to seek them out?
For me, I don't think it does. I have to seek them out. I have been with people that do seem to really attract them, but like I say, I am not the natural medium. I'm the one that developed. Like they always say, everybody can pick up a pencil and draw, but not everybody's going to be, Van Gogh. We all can learn to tap into that ability, but we're not all going to be that natural beacon. So, and I'm okay with that. I'm pretty proud of the development I've done, actually, to be able to sit down and read people where, 20 years ago, it never occurred to me that I could do that. I mean, to me, that's amazing. That is amazing. But yeah, I'm not the magnet of the group.
See, now I'm half and half. The stuff, the happy-go-lucky, happy stuff that wants to communicate comes to me, but the negative stuff just seems to avoid me like the plague. I mean,
wow.
So when I've been in places that had negative activity reported and everything, and when I go in, they tell me, "Wow, it's never this quiet." But at the same time, if I've got my friendly ghost here at the local hunt that when I go down there, teams like to invite me to come in because they have a better night if I show up for just a few minutes to say hi.
That's great. So in terms of psychic protection, if I were to bring you with me, you'd be like my psychic bouncer.
Oh yeah, I can. That for a while that was, I guess you could say that was my job. But yeah, I am for whatever reason I am very well protected, and it's really nothing that I do. It's just something I was gifted with. But and I can extend that protection to other people. The exception that I've run into is kind of what you described there. The word I'm wanting everybody to start using is tulpa, the manifested ghost. The manifested ghost.
Yep.
Those do not follow the usual rules.
Yeah.
And it's because they're a part of whoever created them. They're not, and so those, while they can't bother me, I don't have as good of luck.
No, that makes
shutting
perfect
them
sense.
down. So, but yeah, but actually, when I was in Mansfield, the only ghost that I talked to, and once again, people, this is not a reflection on Mansfield. This is a reflection on me not investigating the place. I was down in the toilet room. I think that's what everybody calls it because it's where they stored all the old toilets. And the one I was talking to, actually, I think came from outside looking just to see what was going on. I don't think he was ever part of the prison. So anyway, so now with Mansfield, so you've had some good impressions of the place. Of course, the place is beautiful. Do you on these public hunts? Do you do a lot? I guess let me back up the question. Do you do a lot of these type of public hunts, or do you still do a lot of called in help as a psychic medium?
Well, unfortunately, since I'm not part of a team, back when I was on my team, we were investigating every weekend. Some weekends we'd have 2 cases. I mean, we were hardcore. Now that I'm on my own, I'll occasionally go out and do a hunt, or I'll consult for people if they need some help, or I can just talk to them and give them some suggestions. But most of what I do now, just because I travel so much, is the public hunts.
And everybody, we've blown right through the show, Rosalyn.
Oh no.
Okay. The event we've been talking about coming up is Lockdown 2016. It is put on to benefit Unity, A Journey of Hope, and you can find the charity at unityajourneyofhope.org. You can, if you don't want to type all that in, go to paranormalfiller.com. It's plastered all over the website. Just look on the right-hand side. It's lockdown2016.eventbrite.org for people that just want to go right ahead and buy their tickets. Now, got that plug out of the way. Anything coming up on your calendar other than this, Rosalyn, that you want to plug before I let you go?
Yes, coming up, my next event is June 4th and 5th. It's actually already a sold-out event at Penhurst State School over in Spring City, PA. And that's actually where I'm going to be debuting the talk I'm giving this year, which is 9 natural causes of perceived paranormal activity. I kind of, this year, I want to sort of challenge people to be a little more skeptical of things that they are perceiving, because there might be a physical reason for it. So that is coming up June 4th and 5th. And then, I'm in the dark here. I'm in my dark attic. It's hard to see. Hold on, here we go. June 19th, of course, is the lockdown in Mansfield. July 16th and 17th, I'll be at Ocean State Paracon up in Rhode Island. August 6th, I will be working with the Glory Haunt Hounds up in New York for a small investigation at a virgin location. And then, what else do I have coming up? September 9th through 11th, we're doing an event at Ashmore Estates out in Illinois. And what else do I have? Oh, Halloween weekend, I will be out in Erie, PA for the live Paranormal Supercon. And also one thing that I just started this year, getting back to the psychic protection talk, I'm going to be doing some free webinars on the internet. So sort of giving people just some free information, free instruction on ways that they can do different things or approach different things. And the first one I will be giving are 5 simple psychic protection techniques for ghost hunters. So check out my website at www.motherghosthunter.com. I'm going to have a link up soon where you can opt in and you can join my webinars for free and get some information.
Rosalyn, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been this first time I've really got to talk to you beyond just passing you your table at one of the cons. So it's been a lot of fun, and I learned a whole lot about you tonight.
Excellent. I've really enjoyed it. I learned some things about myself, which is always fun. Thank you so much for a great interview.
And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This has been Paranormal Filler.
Paranormal Filler.